I'm Val Walker, and I'm a blogger for Psychology Today and the author of three books, and previously a rehabilitation counselor, and now I'm more of a consultant and an educator and a group facilitator. And the latest book that I wrote was about awe and wonder and how it helps us heal. I call it Healing Through Wonder, how awe restores us after trauma and loss. And quite amazingly, people can tap their sense of awe and wonder, and it can be a strength for them. It can be, if you like, a way to get us beyond the thoughts and the worries and the nagging rumination that goes on. And moments of awe and wonder have an amazing way of lifting us into the present moment, helps unlock us from all these cynical influences. And it's okay to have the cynical thoughts. It's okay to feel the grief or the trauma and live through it and live with it. All that is part of life. But the beauty of awe and wonder, rather than being an escape from that, it helps us create the space to live with it. So that's my introduction to why I'm fascinated in awe and wonder. And I'd like to turn to Robyn, who I profiled in the book and also in another book. Robyn has a great background to share with this.
Yeah, thanks, Val. It's good to be back here doing this again. And you didn't mention that your book is now an audiobook too, as well. So people need to check that out.
Yeah,
Yay. Awesome.
thank
Awesome.
you.
Awesome.
Thank you for saying that.
You're welcome. So, I am Robyn Houston-Bean. I'm the founder of the Sun Will Rise Foundation. We provide peer grief support to people bereaved due to substance use related causes. And we do that mostly by having peer support groups. We have over 40 groups a month, either virtual or in person. But we also do events, a time to come together where you don't have to sit around and talk about your grief, but just be together with other people who understand. And that's really taken off. We have tons of different types of events people can go to. And it's really wonderful to see people, um, you know, breathing again with other
Mhm.
people, not having to worry if they're laughing or if they're crying, and just being with pe people who understand. So I'm glad to be here tonight. We talk about awe and wonder all the times in our group, and I like to take the chance to be able to talk to certain specific people here. And Martha is our next guest on the show, and I'm really excited to hear her story.
Yes, I got to know Martha because I got to be on her podcast called Let Glory Shine. And I got to talk about my book and my stories. But Martha, you're a wonderful interviewer, and we got so connected with the stories. That it was just a no-brainer for me to say, why don't you come and share your stories with us? You're a podcast host, an author, a speaker, a coach, and you have a fascinating background in many ways that awe and wonder have changed your life and enriched your life. And so we just had to have you on here. Thanks for coming.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me, Val. Anytime that I have the privilege of sharing on Wonder, any part of my testimony, I just feel honored. So thank you for having me tonight.
So let's just let you take us in a moment of awe and wonder and maybe start with a story of awe and wonder, and then you can build on that.
Okay. So I loved when I had you on my show and I started thinking about like all the different moments in my life about awe and wonder.
Mhm.
And it really got the wheels turning, right? So I'm a trauma informed coach, so I coach people through trauma, and oftentimes it's the presence of awe and wonder that allows us to, like you said, make space for healing. And so I do lots of different exercises of bringing us into that presence, into the
Mhm.
be here now moment, right? Where awe and wonder can take place. And so after you and I had that conversation, I really started like thinking back all these times where awe and wonder had showed up in my life. So I have so many stories of awe and wonder that have happened to me over the years, but I'm going to backtrack and I'm going to start at the very beginning because that's kind of the place where it all started and how I found myself, but also found awe and wonder. So I was born and raised in a religious cult. So I was there until I was 26.
Mm.
I did not have an identity. So my identity was the group. I was told what to wear. I was told what to eat. I was told when I could shower. I was told what, like everything was regimented and everything was told to me. I was not at liberty to make any decisions for myself, not where I went to school, not where, I wasn't allowed to date. Like everything was controlled.
Mhm.
And so at 26, when I make my escape, after 26 years of physical abuse, sexual abuse, emotional abuse, verbal abuse, sexual, like I had just stacks and stacks of trauma.
Mm.
And so I escape at age 26, but I escape with no identity, no self-confidence, no self-awareness, no self-love, no self.
Mm.
And so I enter this world that I know absolutely nothing about, and I am trying to fit in, and I don't fit in, obviously, because I don't know what it's like to be out in this new world. And now there's the internet. And I went in, there was no internet, right? Like all these things had changed in the real world, and I wasn't prepared for any of them. So, as life would have it, I had to figure out who I was. I had to figure out what colors I liked. I had to figure out what foods I liked. I had to figure out, like, I had no choices. I had no, like, I didn't know anything about me, but I'm a grown adult. I should know these things. And so I got caught up in the trying to figure me out. And so I remember this moment of having to be like, is this all that life is? All pain, right? Is this all that life is? And sitting with that, the heaviness of that question, and just pondering, like, if there's a God, is this all that there's to life, right? And I remember where I was. I remember I was sitting on the ottoman at the bottom of my bed. I was married by this time. I was in my late 20s, and I was sitting at the ottoman at the bottom of my bed, and I looked out the window, and there was a rainbow. And I remember looking at that rainbow and going, it didn't even rain. How is there a rainbow? Right? And looking back, that was an awe and wonder moment, right? When I tell you that I felt it from the crown of my head to the tips of my toes, and I didn't even know what to call it, I didn't know what it was, I didn't know this feeling that held me, right? But I was in this very deep place of questioning everything. And I look out and see this rainbow. Rainbows had been a thing looking back that always brought me like pleasure, brought me happiness, brought me like it just felt like magic almost, right?
Mhm.
And so it wasn't a coincidence that that was what I got to see, right? It was just that I took the moment to see it.
Mhm.
And so looking back and now having the words to describe what that was and being able to like remember it so many years later, that's been 20 plus years ago now, and being able to hold that and be like, that was precious. And that stopped me from the spiral. And so there are many, many, many stories like that of when I was spiraling or my life was falling apart where something grabbed me. And that's something awe and wonder, right? So I could keep on telling stories like this, but I feel like you guys want to jump in. So
I love when you were saying too, like you felt it through your whole body.
Mhm.
Like that is just, it rings true to me for so many times that I have these awe and wonder moments. Like it is very, very powerful and sticks with you. Like you remember that so vividly from so many years ago.
yeah.
I know we've talked about experience like little tiny things. They don't have to be all these big things, but the big things really are these like, holy crap, look at me moments, right? Like pay attention to this
Yeah.
moment. And um, I love that you had that because I felt when you're telling your story, I felt like sad for you, right? I felt you were being oppressed and you were just really in a bad place. And then to have that as something that kind of shook you out of it a little
Yeah.
bit.
Yeah. The interesting thing that you just said that I totally resonate with is that when, after my healing journey, so I've been on a healing journey for the last 14 and a half years, which I've really dedicated to healing myself from the traumas that I went through that first 26 years of my life. And since that journey, I find awe and wonder in the small things. The parking
Right.
space, the monarch butterfly, the sunflower, right? I find the joy in the small things, right? I find that awe and wonder in the small things. And what I've learned is that the more we're in touch with self, the more open we are that these things are around us and that there's something bigger orchestrating all of them, right? This
Mhm.
love that just gets to generate through us and for us. And you have that pair of glasses on, that lens to look through, you can see it everywhere. It
Mhm.
surrounds us, but you have to have the openness to
Mhm.
see it, to accept it, to be like, that's worth taking my breath away right now. Right, whatever that moment is, because all of these moments are there. Lots of times we just don't have the lens to see them.
That's right.
Yeah, I agree too, because when we talk about it, and I've invited people on to say, do you want to talk about your story or something? There'll be people in the group that'll say, I'm so sad. Nothing like this has ever happened to me. And I'm like, no, indeed it has. It has. You just haven't, you haven't realized it
Yeah.
at the time. And I said, someday you've got to be just open to this experience. So,
We can call it energy, we can call it coincidence, we can call it nature, whatever it is.
Hmm.
Just as long as you have the reverence in the sacredness of it's a moment and
That's right.
it's mine, you
Mm.
know.
And open-mindedness and being open and all the psychology tests on personalities, people who are more open to learning and
Yeah,
experiences are more likely to
to
appreciate
have
these
these.
things.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
enough about that. I'm dying for some more experiences, Martha, because as part of your journey, maybe you start
Yes.
with one and one led to another.
Yeah, I have a whole list of them, but the one that I shared with you initially was when I was on the compound living at the cult, and I there was this big pond, and the pond was like a sanctuary for blue herons. And I remember you had shared your blue heron story, and it's on the cover of your book, right?
Yes.
And I remember so many times finding that awe and wonder and that solace and just getting so caught up in watching the blue herons on the pond. It would take me out
Wow.
of that pain place. It would literally like I could sit on the back of the annex. It was a building that overlooked the pond. I would sit on the back of that on the ground on rocks and just watch the pond. And all of my pain would go away for that time, watching
Oh,
the herons come
wow.
and go, taking fish out of the pond. There was such a peacefulness, and I could just forget any of the things that had happened to me or were happening to me. It was a sanctuary, it was a safe place. And they were magical creatures to me. I don't even know that I knew the name of them back then, right? I was a small child, but I just remember the magic of the blue heron on the pond, and I could just get lost in it. And looking back again, that was just me. That was an escape, right? But it was really just a practice of presence. I was
Hmm.
present to see what was around me. So, looking back at that now and understanding what it was and allowing those moments to keep me in the present versus in the fear of what was going on with me in real life, right? It was an escape. And I have thought about that in also terms of like how I am able to pull myself into the present now. I will see a blue heron now and it will grab my attention. I see them everywhere in the reservoir that my apartment complex dumps into, the whatever the open pond thing. It's not really a pond. It's a place where the water goes through, right? The little very small, but blue herons go back there. And when I see them, I have to stop. I might be on a walk, I might be driving by, but I stop because that reminds me of that. That reminds me of the little girl that was scared out of her mind, that took that moment where she felt safe, where she felt connected, where she didn't feel alone, right? And so I see them, or if I see them when I'm traveling, my husband and I went to the mountains 2 weekends ago, and we were sitting on the outside of our hotel just playing cards and having a drink. And two blue herons flew over the top of us and went to this little stream that was next to us. And I was like, blue herons, blue herons. He was like, what's with you and blue herons? Like, this isn't the first time you've said this. And so then I had to tell him, and I was like, I had this connection with this Val, and I'm going to be on her show in a couple of weeks. And anyway, it was fun to just tell him about me, the little girl, right? Because he didn't know me as that scared little girl. He sees me as this more healed version, right? A 47-year-old woman that has her stuff together. And so I had to tell him the whole story. So they still show up for me, just as monarch butterflies. Butterflies is another one. So I was being molested at age 8, and I lived on a farm with my parents, and the one of my dad's workers was molesting me, and he was a grown man, and he was molesting me. And oftentimes he would take me into this cornfield and to molest me. I started seeing butterflies, and when I would see the butterflies, I didn't have to feel the pain. And so monarch butterflies became this beacon of hope almost, and they've stuck with me my entire life. And so about 7 years ago, my cousin died tragically. She was 25. She died tragically. She had epilepsy and she drowned in a bathtub because she had a grand mal seizure and died in the bathtub. And she and I shared the love for monarch butterflies and sunflowers. You see, my house is covered in sunflowers and I have monarch butterflies you can't see on the other side. But her and I shared that love. And so for her life celebration, we sent them 100 monarch butterflies to release. And we got pictures and videos of this. And swear those butterflies reproduce every year. And those, like it, every time I see monarchs, and in North Carolina, we don't get monarchs like we do in the Midwest. I lived in Minnesota, and Minnesota had a lot of monarchs. We don't get monarchs down here very often, but at least every spring I will see one or two. And it's always that awe and wonder of like, there's Kenzie, right? Or there's my special, like that's my little girl. Like I am okay. Look, I'm okay. And that brings me back to those awe and wonder moments, right? Because those butterflies saw and helped me through so much pain where I could escape the physical pain that I was in to just be with the butterflies, And there
Yeah.
were so many butterflies in that cornfield, so many butterflies in that cornfield. So there's just so many stories like this through my life that although I had no identity, I didn't know who I was held captive, had all these horrible things happen to me. Looking back, my mind was always open. My mind was always open. And I wanted to see better than what was happening to me. I wanted to find joy and peace and love out here, even though I wasn't able to feel it in here, right? And so yeah, so many moments like this that I've drawn conclusion for now and have words to explain
Yeah.
those feelings and those events.
I think things like that like give you the permission to like not have answers, right? You just accept these things as they come. I don't know why they're here, but they're doing something for me. They're giving me some sort of peace or hope or whatever, but it's the ability not to have to know why. Why am I seeing these butterflies right now? Why am I dragonfly? Why is that dragonfly coming to me right at this moment?
Yeah.
It's meaning so much to me right now that it gives you that permission, which I love about awe and wonder.
Yes.
Isn't
Yeah.
it nice to say this is meaningful? This is so important to me, even if you can't explain why
Explain it.
or have to name it or put it in.
A
It just
box.
is.
Yeah.
So I see what you're saying with these moments when you were young like that.
Yeah.
Um, mm,
That's what I was going to add to what Robin just said is that now knowing what I know, right? Not having to put it in a box or to figure it out, right? I think so often our culture wants to make sense of things. And I'm like, sometimes it's so fun if you don't have to make sense of it, right? And I have so many stories like that that just, you're like, where did that even come from? How did that even happen, right? I'll tell another story. And this is along my healing journey, I have learned to get in touch with self. That has been one of the most precious gifts that I've ever given myself is to remember who I was and who I was meant to be, right? Because growing up, I never had that. I didn't know who I was. And so giving myself the permission to remember who I was and who I was created to be has been one of the biggest gifts that I've ever given myself. And on this journey of remembering, I have awoken these types of memories, right? Because these memories were gone for a very long time because pain always gets your attention first. But
Mm.
when you clear the pain and you clear the clutter and you clear the negative, suddenly you can have space for these good memories, right? These awe and wonder moments. So I have this is about 5 years ago. I was living in the mountains of Virginia, in the Shenandoah Valley, and I was in a relationship that I knew had run its course, but I was not yet ready to make the separation, right? Because it was going to be an upheaval, and I knew that it was going to turn my life upside down once again, and I was just not ready to make that decision. So I by this time I had found my faith, and so I just prayed on my way to work one day, and I was like, God, like if I'm ready, if I need to go, then I need you to send me a sign. And if I'm supposed to stay, I need you to send me a sign. And just as I finished praying that, I heard audibly in my head that if I send you a dove, that means find peace and stay. If I send you a bluebird, it's time to fly, it's time to go, like you're done. And I was like, okay, dove, bluebird, dove, bluebird. All the way to work, I'm just watching for doves and bluebirds. I get to work, I haven't seen a dove or bluebird, and I'm like, okay. So I was nannying for this family of 4 children. And so I go in and I'm having a conversation with the mom. The mom leaves for work. One of the little girls runs up to me and she's like, Miss Martha, I have something to show you. I'm so excited. I couldn't wait for you to get here. She's like, I don't know why, but look what's on the deck. And she pulls out her iPad and she had taken a picture. And on the banister of the porch outside are 2 bluebirds. And she said, Daddy said it's way too early for bluebirds because bluebirds should not be in Virginia at the beginning of March.
mm.
And so she's like, it's a miracle. Daddy said no bluebirds are supposed to be here. And I saw that and I just like, I just, it took my breath. I was like, so, well, didn't see that one coming, right? But then I just stared and I had this like, again, crown of head to the bottoms
hmm
of feet,
hmm
peace because I had gotten my sign and all the angst that I had been wrestling with for these months leading up to this of like, do I stay? Do I go? I had peace. I had like literal peace from head to toe. And I was like, huh, okay. I resigned that day from that job, went home, packed my stuff, left that relationship, and moved back to North Carolina within 4 days because I had asked and I now had the lens to see. And when I saw, I didn't question, I just went and I just believed.
Hmm.
And it was the easiest transition I could have prayed for. It was nothing like I'd envisioned. I had envisioned upheaval and craziness and upsets, like not it was so easy. It was so joy-filled. Like yes, an ending of a relationship is heartbreaking, right? Like I had to learn some lessons, he had to learn some lessons, but it was so peaceful in that transition because I had opened myself to awe and wonder. So it's like all things working together, right? And so there's just so much. This is so fun.
It is.
I
Yeah,
know. Once you think about these things, right, you give yourself a permission to let that be magical, let it be powerful,
let it.
right? Let it be. I said, Val knows I'm an R and wonder chaser. Like that's what I love to find.
Yeah.
And then sometimes when you let it in, the moments don't stop coming, and that's I
Hmm.
think is just is equally as powerful.
Yeah. Yeah. Because you have the lens to see it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
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 And it just
Can you?
opens us to more learning and more wondering. Wonder is an offshoot of moments of awe.
Yeah.
We have this thing that shifts our perspective and then we wonder about it. So it's a beautiful language of allowing your mind to be open and take in things. And it just sounds like, yeah, one leads to another. Help it hit you with another question. We've talked a lot about nature and awe and wonder moments, but there are many different kinds of getting awe. Do you get awe from, is there a particular song or piece of music that gives you goosebumps, that gives you an awe, or other ways that you get awe outside of nature?
I do. So, people, I often have on wonder moments through other people.
Hmm.
So, just an example is I will have had a thought in the morning that says, okay, call Noelle, right? One of my friends. Call Noelle, text Noelle, whatever, right? And I text her whatever I text her. And then she'll text me back and say, how did you know? That's exactly what I needed, right? And whatever because I just try to speak from the heart, right? It's not just like, hi, how are you? Because I really feel like that's wasting both of our times. I'm intentional with my words. I've learned to be intentional. And so I will ask her, about something certain. And I'll say, I prayed about this morning. And she'll be like, how did you know? Right? That's that's what we're talking about here is following through. Had I ignored that, right, she would not have experienced that, neither would I.
Mm.
So I experience things like that, or somebody, my husband will start playing a song that I've had in my head all day, but I haven't said it, but he'll play it as soon as I get home when we're getting ready for dinner. And that's the song that's been playing in my head all day, right? And then I'll be like, how did you know? That's been playing in my head all day, right? So just those moments of like expecting that I'm going to see, hear, feel, because it's really about bringing us to presence. That's all it is. And feeling the joy from that moment. And so I feel, or I see a lot of awe and wonder moments through people and through the expression of just following my intuition or my gut and just following through on whatever it is I'm hearing, feeling, tasting, smelling, whatever it is, right? Whether that's another person or a song or a poem or sending a message or any of those things. Yeah.
Mm. That's amazing. I love the connections. I was thinking the other day, I was really sad after one of my groups and it was really heavy. And you must, Martha, with the trauma work you do and things like this, it's just heavy stuff. There's people that are losing people tragically, and we get to share our stories. So sometimes it's really hard to listen to. And I do a good thing, like I protect myself pretty well, but sometimes afterwards it's just so tragic. I just, feel really, sad afterwards or whatever. And I was sitting there for a little bit, just taking a breath before I like went into my rest of my life, rest of my day. And I just started thinking about the capacity that we have to go on after tragedies. And as I sat with that, it gave me this moment of that is amazing. that is awe. That is wonder that the human being can take such tragedy and go on, and that we can experience things like you did with these, sexual abuse and that type of stuff. And the human has the capacity to go on. So I think that is amazing. And
It
you
is.
made me made me think about that with your stories today. That sometimes it's not just these moments that have. It's like our whole being can be just this amazing, amazing, wow thing. So thank you, Martha, for that because um, it's a powerful how resilient we all are.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I say that to my clients all the time. Like, don't forget that you made it through every toughest thing that you've ever faced in your entire life, right? And because I'll have people come up to me and they'll say, "Well, I've never," after I've been on stage or whatever, and they'll be like, I've never gone through the things you've gone through, but I lost my brother when I was 6 years old." And I look at that, I'm like, your brother died at 6 years old and you don't think that that's comparable to the tragedies that I've gone, what?
Mm,
Right? Because we've made it through all the toughest things that we ever have. And so, first of all, trauma comparing is useless. And
Yeah.
because everybody, pain is pain, regardless of what your 10 is, regardless of what pain is pain. Grief is grief. It all hurts us, right? It all changes us. All of the things that we've been through change us. And so understanding that, yes, all of those things, yes, how amazing it is that this human meat suit that we're in is resilient enough to make it through every hard thing that we've ever been through and still keep on going,
mm,
right? And find ways to heal. A lot, so many of us find ways to heal those things. Some of us don't.
mm,
And that's a tragedy in itself, or aren't able to see the awe and wonder in the experiences that they've been through because it changes them.
mm,
So yeah, that's a really, really important point.
mm,
And I want to remind people, I know you say that you expect the miracles, you expect the awe moments, but there's people out there more like me, maybe that if I say I'm expecting it, then I'm going to be wicked disappointed if something doesn't, if that dove isn't there today, darn it. Like, what did I do wrong? So a overthinker like me, and many of
Yeah,
us out there, I would like to put it out. The neuroscience shows that many of these awe moments are unexpected. It's
mm,
often when you least expect it. Indeed, some of us can get so caught up looking for it
yeah,
that they miss.
yeah,
Okay, let's
mm,
say you want to go see a rainbow. You're all determined. I've got to see a rainbow as a sign
yeah,
today. So you go to the lake, you go on this hike, and damn it, there's no rainbow. And you're
yeah,
really bummed. It's like, no, I don't have any sign, darn it.
yeah,
So, and
yeah,
then you're walking back to your car, and what happens? A chickadee lands right on your shoulder. Like, what the
mm,
heck? Maybe there's another connecting,
yeah,
unexpected thing that wakes you up and goes, that's amazing. So you might miss something amazing when you're hung up on that fixation of
mm,
what's amazing.
mm,
Excuse me for getting off on that, but it's just because I'm such a little worry wart.
yeah.
There are a
I
lot
think
of
it's
us
more
out
of,
there that miss all the good stuff because it's like
yes.
where's that sign I was looking for?
Yeah, yeah. No, I think that it's more of a state of open-heartedness, being open-hearted, right?
Open-hearted. Hmm.
More than expecting. Because for me, expecting just means that I'm always open, right? I'm
Yeah.
always open to like, what am I going to see? And, what am I going to feel? What am I going to hear? What's going to feed me, right? What's going to fill me up? And so it's a state of open-heartedness.
Hmm.
So more than the expecting a certain thing, right? Like
Okay.
I'm not gonna
Yeah.
go out of my apartment tonight and be like, if I don't see a blue jay or a dove, I'm giving up that sign. Really, no, that's not. You see what I'm saying? It's more of like this. I live open-heartedly and
Open-hearted.
expect that I get to see awe and wonder everywhere I go and everything that I do, right? Like it's just a state of being, maybe.
mm, mm,
Like Mary Oliver, the poet, said, I'm a bride married to amazement. You love that
Mm,
quote, Robin.
I
You
do.
brought it
I love
to
that
me.
word.
And another Mary Oliver poem called The Ponds. She has this
Mm,
great line where she says that she never wants to lose her willingness to be amazed. That it's not
Mm.
just about being amazed, it's being willing to go there and be amazed, like allowing that.
And I
And
think
thank you for doing so.
Yeah, I think the
Thanks.
listeners will really appreciate Martha's stories that she's told and her moments. I think that they've been really wonderful. And there'll be people that may find some new way to look at, healing through wonder after listening to your story. Yeah.
Well, this
So
was so fun. Thank you for having me. And anytime that we get to maybe inspire or help somebody else to see the miracle that life is, right? It's really special. So thank you for the invite, and I've really had an amazing time tonight.
great.